Hi. Today we are talking about the application of the 13 steps for success in the sexuality of people with disabilities and all marginalized people. Before I start explaining the what, I'll explain why I decided to do it this way. The idea starts from people with disabilities and from all the difficulties they encounter to be able to have a dignified life and to do apparently simple things for us because of the fact that the rest of society cannot comprehend, but instead of asking them and understanding, it marginalized them. What I don't see doesn't exist. Everything that people with disability have obtained, whatever large or small, they have had to sweat for it, and asking and demanding. Never that the initiative started directly from others. This is how marginalization manifests itself through a mixture of selfishness, I'm sorry, but it's not my problem, and fear. How can I manage this situation? Unfounded, among other things, because there's nothing to be afraid of. Just follow the direction and listen to understand. It is precisely marginalization that takes center stage because, together with differently able, there are many other people and they represent the world of diverse. Everything that is different cannot be too low, too high, too shy, too extroverted, too old, too young, too fat, too thin, too light, too dark, too hetero, too homo, etc., etc. The big problem of differently able and all the diverse has a social nature, and I therefore wanted to group all these people in a category that I called social disability. Because disability, like diversity, suffers so much from various discomforts because there is a blockage in society more than in themselves. The key to understand, therefore, for all the difficulties is social and not of differently able and diverse. So one could play with words and say there is society to be differently disabled. Ezio Bosso said, I'm a man with an obvious disability, among so many human with a disability that cannot be seen. Having said all this, in the hope of a serious collective reflection and remembering that others can only be invited to reflect but not change without their intention, we must understand how the socially disabled can help themselves to live their sexuality. In particular, I will guide you in trying to answer these questions directly or indirectly. How do I have a satisfying, fulfilling sexual life? How do I get to pleasure? It is right, legitimate for us socially disabled to think about sexuality. Well, there is nothing wrong with pleasure and wanting to express our own sexuality. Indeed, various studies in the sector by multidisciplinary teams have shown that not only sexuality and erotic sentimental experience fully and harmoniously lived, it is good, but that there is no ability difference concerning desire and satisfaction. The block almost always comes from wrong ideas and beliefs that are rooted in people through years of conditioning, not for well-being as they have always told us, but for a form of control mixed with fear as mentioned before. Having to remind that the origin of the problem, the personal impact through self-conditioning, but above all, that you are no longer willing to not leave your emotions, let's see how to find ways to have more control over yourself and your choices. Let's begin. The first step is take 100% responsibility for your sexuality and pleasure. The most complicated and important step. It is a matter of accepting that, as with all other things, the law of attraction also works with sexuality, according to which we attract everything we experience in life. But we want to experience pleasure. It is others who deny it to us. True in part, because if you respond to this deprivation with negative feelings instead of making choices and carrying them out, you will always get the same result. However, you make choices that affect your life, and since the sense of this principle is to regain possession of the ability to choose, to be solely responsible for the result obtained, and to recognize our active power, we must take the blame of the wrong decisions, but know that you can reverse the course. Blaming or complaining about the indifference leads nowhere, and you know it well. Also, because remember that you cannot influence or change others. Everyone has their fantasies, their times, and their fears, and if we want to be accepted, we must accept the limits of others. Giuseppe Pontiggia said many times the disabled person is pitied and dare be discriminated against precisely by those who are afraid of recognizing themselves in him, directly or indirectly. By working on ourselves, we can better understand even if there is some attitude that is wrong and fix it. However, it will benefit us and make us feel better. A Chinese proverb says that every path starts from the first step. So compare what you want with what you get, and if things don't fit together, try changing your way of doing, thinking about it. Albert Einstein said the significant problems we face cannot be solved by the same level of thoughts that created them. When you feel the need to leave your sexuality, say it openly, without thinking about the judgment. If you get another criticism yet, instead of irritating and replying in a bad way, saying phrases like, "You speak well, I would like to see how would you feel in my condition," explain that the human being, regardless of the ability level, integration, and so on, feels the same drives, emotions, and needs to satisfy them in order to feel alive and in harmony with the rest of the species. It is one of the ways to give awareness. Another could be the immersion of role. You say, if you were like me, what would you do? You will see that following this trend, the answer will begin to change. Second step, be clear what you are instinctual. You must understand that our purpose in life is to live our humanity in its totality. That boost, that desire, that drive we feel represent the wish to manifest our highest expression, pure and unconditional love, through the typical instrument of human expression, the body, in the typical way of human expression, sexuality. The socially disabled, like the differently disabled, experience these impulses, but experiences them badly or even repress them because it gives power to ideas and beliefs, or worse, fears of judgment of others, feeling guilty for something extremely natural and psychophysical. It also begins to believe that his or condition does not allow or entitle it to certain things because she cannot do it in the same way. Chris Bradford said, disability doesn't mean inability. It simply means adaptability. Third step, decide what you want. What do you really want? What would you really like? What will make you feel satisfied? It is necessary to indicate in details what exactly you would like to manifest in your sexual life. Many socially disabled people cannot even formulate ideas about their sexuality and their erotic pleasure, and this doesn't move anything. The little knowledge of your own body and sensation, the little experience with the other people's bodies and their sensation. The lack of familiarity in the various practices, especially the most appropriate to your conditions, creates a block that is projected more on the abstract indefinite than about what you like to experience. If you say, I want an interaction, and you don't say what kind, it could also be an online conversation. You have to specify without problems and without thinking about the things you may not be able to do. Not everyone does everything. And not everything is necessary, but the single thing can be. Martina Navratilova said disability is a matter of perception. If you can do even one thing well, someone needs you. Fourth step, unleash the power of the definition of pleasure. This is about detailing all kinds of things you would like to experience with sexuality. It is necessary not only to be clear about what, but also to plan the moment of realization and the quantity. How much and by when, date and time. You want the realization of that particular erotic sexual desire. The deadline serves to make the subconscious database an operational center understand that it is really a desire to be consolidated and not a simple erotic fantasy. Otherwise, it will not be activated. It is not enough to say, I want to experience my erotic physiology. How much time do you want to devote it to it? 15, 30, 60 minutes? What practice would you like to experiment? And by when? Starting from December 1st, 2020 at 9 p.m. Well done. Fifth step, believe it is possible and believe in yourself. If you don't believe you are able to handle certain situations because you are embarrassed by the thought of having certain fantasies, or if you think that their fulfillment is not possible, they will not manifest. For every desire you wish to experiment, you must always have the absolute and full conviction that it is doable and realistic, but above all, that you are perfectly capable of making it happen and managing it. It is not a matter of the ability, but of adaptability. You have to convince yourself that the sensations are there, but that you can experience them in a different way, without comparing yourself with others. Think your way. Stephen Hawking said, I believe that people with disabilities should focus on the things their handicap does not prevent them from doing, and not regret those they cannot do. Sixth step, use affirmations, ideal scenes, vision boards, and visualization. You must always keep in mind that the subconscious producer materializer does not have a negative language, and therefore does not understand if something causes pain or if we are saying that we do not want it. Energy flows where our attention is concentrated. So you have to work on modifying the sentences you say to your brain using affirmation. If you don't want to experience a certain thing, instead of saying, I don't want that thing, you say, I want to try this practice, this thing. The subconscious then works through images, and if you vividly imagine scenes related to realization of that desire, and to facilitate yourself, you use blackboards, slides with the representation of that desire, the subconscious would be activated to make it come true. Remember that mind does not recognize the difference between a truly performed action from a vividly imagined one. Seventh step, turbocharge them with your feelings. The vehicle for giving a boost to our thoughts, desires, are feelings. They are the ones who will create the magic that will lead to realization. Every thought provokes feelings in us, which will convey the energy of thought and create the condition for making our subconscious operational. uh, what you need to do is focus on positive feelings. Welcome, process, and redirect the negatives, but focus attention only on the positive. Eighth step, create a vibrational match for what you want. This is the funniest part where you allow yourself to be childish. Just like children, when they saw a new toy, you have to get excited, cheer, laugh, even if it seems stupid, because that creates a vibration that will project itself into the universe and will give you back in parallel the corresponding desire fulfilled or the ideas to do it. Through meditation and visualization, you have to imagine yourself in the situation linked to your erotic desire fantasy as already realized and rejoice for the joy of having experienced it. You are in the room and you begin to get excited, to be moved with joy, and say, "Whoa, yes, I did it seriously, and how much I like it. I can't wait to do it again." And you have to feel it as a real inside. It'll work. Promise. Ninth step, take action. This is the most important part to see the fulfillment of your wishes. If you think without acting, nothing will happen. You must not let yourself be held back by fear, but act according to the inspiration of the moment. When the opportunity comes, the right person, and you feel the erotic nudge, the adrenaline, and the desire to rise, go, act. Do not postpone to next train or create thoughts to support limiting beliefs and fears. Live the moment because it is that what your intuition suggests. You shouldn't get into dangerous situation, but neither should panic and avoiding enjoying the pleasant experience. You must be like an archaeologist who identifies a site to study and begins to excavating to find out what will come of it, what revelations might be hiding behind the finds. However, you must complete the excavation if you want to fully enjoy the treasures. A site left halfway will not produce new knowledge. Think of yourself only as a sexual creator and focus on your resources instead of your shortcomings so that you can focus on perceptions and have fun. Neil Marcus said disability is not a brave struggle or the courage to face adversity. Disability is an art, is an ingenious way of living. 10 steps, ask, and reject rejection. Here begins the critical part because preconceptions, fears, prejudices, doubts all come into play. You can hardly make a fantasy on your own, and in one way or another, you need help. Whatever it is, a sexual act, an erotic practice, a little pampering, or anything that involves other people, you don't have to be ashamed to ask. Even if it's just a hug or a kiss, you don't get it by not asking. When we want something from someone, the only way to get it is to ask for it. Because regardless of the answer, the other person does not read our minds. There is often the fear of rejection, which is one of the main reasons that make us avoiding asking, hoping that the other person can guess and offer to experiment with us. But a no is not a personal attack. It's only they're not despising or discriminating you. It's only an answer. And just leave it, take it as the way it is. Just an answer. You made a request, the answer was no, and you ask others and others until you get a yes, and you're welcome. I am ashamed to have to ask for certain things, and the other is not willing to stay with me. So, two things to remember. First, is that there is free will and that is not personal but only It's not personal thing, personal attack. It's not related to you. It's only a different idea, a divergency. Second things to remember, and more important things, that many people who will also like to propose themselves do not do it for the same reason as you. The judgment of others, your judgment, the fear of being considered perverts, etc., etc. Being you asking, these obstacles are avoided, regardless of the answer. To facilitate any refused and keeping in mind what has been said above, you may imagine that there are a certain number of no's to be received to get a yes. So each no you receive is a step forward towards a yes. Do not always be in the defensive, because it obscures your vision and you may not be able to see the eventual opportunity that might present to you. Bebevillo said, "You must know that there is a theory which is not ours, but which we have made ours, according to which people with disabilities are divided between resentful and sunny. The first are those who are angry with the world for what happened to them. The second are those who have decided to leave it as new opportunity." 11 steps. Ask, welcome, and respond to feedback. It is important to ask for feedback to understand how well your thoughts, perceptions, and reality correspond. You are often convinced that the other person thinks certain things, but the reality is completely different. Or when you are convinced that you are not attractive and that it is impossible for you to be appreciated. Feedback makes us discover, even in sexuality, how far or close to the reality of things our perception are, and therefore give us the opportunity to straighten the shot. However, we must keep in mind the three rules. To receive it, we must ask for it. It does not come automatically, especially if the aforementioned fear exists on the other side. Second rule, know how to filter them, because there are the right ones who are constructive, recommend a way to improve certain things, and we must know how to welcome them without being offended when we don't like it, because remember, there is not a personal attack, it's just an advice. The second type, the wrong ones, are given by those people who simply love to criticize and demolish others, but without giving any advice. And these are unuseful and must be discarded along with the person. The third rule for feedback, we must always thank those who gives us, because they took the time to help us and paid attention to us. It is a way to show that she cares to make us feel better, and by telling us that there are things we can do. She involuntarily tells us that something is there. Only be ready to get it. Bebevillo said, "It is nice to be able to show future to others in moments when it seems to them that there is no more future." 12th step, practice persistence with patience. Things don't always or hardly ever come to the first try. We must therefore learn to persevere in the realization of our desires. If we stopped at every obstacle, we will never accomplish anything. Imagine many famous people and their often difficult stories, especially at the beginning. If they stop, they will never achieve success. In addition, by practicing persistence, we learn to enjoy every stage of our journey and appreciate every nuance, and without realizing it, we will find ourselves having fulfilled our desire. Hurry is always a bad advisor and limits our view along the way. Patient perseverance opens our eyes and makes us see possibilities and opportunities that otherwise we will not have even considered. Especially in sexuality, many situations and emotions comes into play, which will influence the relationship of that moment. If you manage to maintain a welcoming attitude and see the opportunity of that moment, you may be surprised to find yourself experiencing something pleasant and that you not even imagined. 13th step: have an attitude of gratitude. To have a positive attitude, move the energy of realization, activate the law of attraction, and vibrating universal frequency, you must learn gratitude. Having instinct is already the first things to be grateful for. Then there is the ability to fantasize, the people we know and with whom we can talk and experiment, the places where we can indulge ourselves with fantasies, etc., etc. We often take certain things for granted or don't even think about them. But gratitude sets our memory of positive back in motion by reminding us that there are beautiful things and positive things in our existence. Starting from being erotic. I too have lived in a social disability. I have seen myself marginalized, and I have been denied the opportunity to express myself to the fullest. Me, who as a gentle and shy person had made sexuality my way to share my passion, sincerity, joyfulness, and the ability to reach the deepest space of human soul. I was able to understand the love and the suffering that woman felt, and was left and offended and rejected by them, as if I were a radioactive element and without any value. All my fantastic and idyllic world seemed destroyed, and my thoughts seemed unreal and almost crazy because I had deified a being who was actually a monster. The most total crisis, the desire to disappear, until I stopped. I looked around and I began to thank and be grateful for what I had. But above all, of those people who had hurt me because they made me understand that I didn't belong to the piece of society, but I was wonderfully diverse, and as such able to see things from a different perspectives. Without those experiences, I would never have realized it, and I would probably have fallen into traps of appearance and fashion too. In addition, I happened to meet some of those people again after a long time, and I discovered that their lives, especially in the relational sphere, had been bad, and I'm sorry about that. Even with one of those people, we started talking, and she told me exactly the same words. Oh my, how are you changed? How have you changed? You are a totally different person. I replied to her, "Mm, I am the same person I was then. It's you who have changed, and you have opened your eyes. And in fact, now is the first time you're talking to me. Then maybe you have never even heard my voice." Always remember that we choose who to share with, and not others who choose us. Consciously or unconsciously, we always make choices, and if we don't understand that diversity is a resource, life will always be flat and meaningfulness. However, everything depends on us and on how authentic and non-standardized we want to be. Diane Arbus said, "Those who are born monsters are the aristocracy of the world and of marginalization. Almost everyone goes through life fearing traumatic experience. Monsters were all born along with their trauma. They pass the exam in life. They are aristocrats. I adapt to bad things. I don't like putting things in order. If something isn't right in front of me, I don't fix it. I'll fix myself. So, dear friends, I have combined these two skills of mine for you because your happiness and freedom are important to me. To do this, you need to start from yourself and accept that there are things to do. Everything starts from the mind. With these 13 steps, I wanted to create a path that can help you get your sexual freedom. I hope it will help you because the sole purpose of this work is to rejoice in seeing you smiling and happily satisfied. If you want to know more, I'm here. Just contact me. In the meantime, subscribe to the channel to be updated on future releases of free motivational video. Some quotes before saying goodbye. We will never be the same. We will never have the same things, but we will certainly all be different. So, good diversity to everyone. Bye and see you next.